I'm Erin Lawler Patterson, the goodness chick. I'm an addictions counselor, motivational speaker, author, and parent coach. Join me on the journey of navigating the joys and pitfalls of life, addressing parenting, giving back, mental health, addiction, and relationships. If it takes a village, then join me as one of those villagers. Villagers wanted.
Hope you're having a good day. I'm really excited that you're here for today's episode. Also, really pumped to be a part of the Mental Health News Radio Network. Today, we're going to be talking about transitions in life. As I'm talking to you right now, I'm on a balcony drinking a cup of coffee, overlooking the Couture Bay in Montenegro, and myself going through kind of a different transition in life. Pretty much within the next few days for the past 14 years, right about now is when I would be preparing myself mentally to rock out and get ready for another school year as a high school substance awareness coordinator. It's the first year in 14 years that I'm not. My life has changed drastically, and that's not a bad thing. There's been a whole lot of transitioning. I'm not finished transitioning. It's a process. But this is kind of where I've been thinking a whole lot of how we have different stages in life, and sometimes we wait for the transition to actually happen instead of preparing ourselves for the transition, where we end up kind of thinking a whole lot and letting it just kind of marinate in our minds instead of, okay, like what's entailed in this new school year, whether it's for myself or for for my kid, for a position at work or just life in general. We have different seasons, we have different transitioning stages in life, and it's being able to prepare ourselves in a way that I'm going to say decreases anxiety, allows us to really get more of a fuller experience of whatever path and journey we're taking at that time in our life. And I'm going to say this, I am not a huge planner in life. But in order for us to decrease stress and angst, I believe it is finding kind of that careful balance where it works for us. It's prepping mentally and emotionally for next. I'm going to kind of give you an example. What's really kind of made this more vivid and real for me and how important it is, where, the past few months, let's say maybe 7 or 8 months ago, really kind of gearing up for our near, almost like 1 year around the world venture. It was, okay, here's, our tickets, we know where we're going, we know where we're staying, but in terms of what was involved, or, my and my husband's emotions involved in it, like what are you anxious about? What are we really excited about? What do we feel like needs to be changed? And I think that's applicable for all of us when it comes to different transitions we have ahead. And I believe kind of when we just let it, it's that whole hamster in a wheel thing again. We just allow our brains to spin. We just allow ourselves to say, of course, I'm going back to another school year, at college. I'm starting my senior year of high school. I'm starting this different position. These different dynamics have changed at home. And of course it's happened. Um, you know, why would I think otherwise? Well, it's not about trying to change things. It's about equipping our minds mentally, because whether we realize it or not, it's in our heads and it's there and it's something we're thinking about. And when I'm going to use the word kind of brain dump, whether that's getting a notebook out and it's writing, how does this different change make me feel? To what are my expectations involved in this with this transition? Am I okay with this transition? Am I not okay with this transition? What am I socially, emotionally hoping to get out of that? And you might be like, Erin, that's way too much entailed, you're giving me too much, but I'm not, because what happens is we let it spin, we let it marinate, we let it stay, and then it kind of just stresses the heck out of us. We begin to think, it's kind of like our brain tentacles begin to extend and go in a bunch of different directions, where of the what if, what isn't, what didn't, and it drives us crazy, makes us anxious. And when we kind of make it more of a visual thing, a practice of writing it down, or giving somebody a shout and saying, hey, listen, dude, can we meet for coffee? And can I talk this out with you, or with your partner, or somebody that you trust, but is going to be candid with you, isn't going to just tell you what you want to hear, is going to listen. Not everybody's a good listener. um, and let you, give your 2 cents. Sometimes just like verbalizing and getting things out of our minds and verbalizing it makes all the difference. And for some of us, it might be like, you know what, I got to talk this out when I'm in a shower or when I'm driving somewhere, or just making notes and visibly seeing what I wrote down. And when I tell you, when we start to do that, it it diminishes stress, it diminishes anxiety. And here's where it's that careful balance that kind of comes into play. Um, it's not us it's us talking things out, it's us thinking things out, but it's us not becoming like in a chess game, the chess player and the chess piece, where we are in control of everything, where we have a lack of flexibility, where it's okay, this is what my transition is and this is what it's going to be, and there's nothing outside of that. When we become kind of fixated and we become very fixed on what we think is and what should happen, um, we become rigid. We lose out on the possibility of things outside of that scope. We kind of get these blinders on that keep us from sometimes going to the path we were intended to take. Okay, this different position came up at work, and this is what I'm supposed to be doing, and maybe it's not. Where when we talk things out, when we kind of brain dump, when we connect with somebody and say like, this is what I'm thinking, it's really interesting that okay, we hear ourselves talking, we hear what's coming out of our mouths, and then it's that balance with flexibility and saying, well, maybe this isn't what I'm supposed to be doing, maybe it is. And this is where you're like, okay, what are you telling me? It's a balance. Everything's a balance. Everything's a balance. Because when we get in our minds, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, and this light right here, this is it, and there's nothing outside of that scope. Man, I think it makes life more difficult when we're rigid and we're not open to the possibility of change. We do get different seasons in life. We get different winds that kind of come in where our sails have to kind of readjust a little bit. I'll kind of put it, with sailing, if you just go where you think you're supposed to go and aren't willing to kind of readjust things a little bit, you're going to end up where you're not supposed to be. And when we're, again, kind of coming back with the sailing thing, and you're out in a boat, that can lead to dangerous territory. That could lead to you kind of just exerting energy you don't need to exert. And so everything I believe in life is about having a careful balance, and the ability to kind of, in a very healthy, becoming comfortable with talking things out. I can't tell you how many kids I've talked with over the years. When I talk to them, hey, you're going away to college, or, you're starting this new job, or somebody I know personally, profession stuff is changing or things at home. And I kind of like pry a little bit and say like, how are you feeling? What are your thoughts about this thing that's happening? And it's like, well, I don't know. It's just happening. It is what it is. Well, it isn't what it is, because when you kind of like peel back those layers and you really start talking things out a little bit, um, it's amazing what's inside of us. And it's amazing how sometimes we don't even pick up on the stressors that we have. Sometimes we don't even pick up on the hesitations we might have, or the, I'm really excited, where we hold ourselves back from getting excited about something because we're not really thinking about it. Well, this is, this point A to point B. This is where I'm going. My first day of school, or my first day at work, or this new position, or, these different things that happened at home. It's just plopped, it's here. But when we make it more than a plop, and we kind of take that step back, and what's involved in it, am I cool with this? Am I not cool with it? Do I want something different? When we bring color to this, to our thoughts, to our decisions, to our transitions, changes the game. I think it kicks it up a notch. And I think we all deserve to have life kicked up a notch. I think so often there's so many people, man, who are just like, well, you know what? I mean, of course it's the first day of this, or this thing has changed, or this, different situation in life, or this chapter. And they don't think and they don't process and they just kind of go through the motions. And to live life on cruise control, it's a bummer, super bummer. Um, I know when I made the decision to literally like I changed my life drastically, where I resigned from a position I held for 14 years. I was in a very comfortable state. It was something, man, I loved. Like it flowed from within me in terms of I knew, like, 14 whatever years ago, God led me to this high school. I was supposed to do this job. I loved it. And right now, I'm kind of going through a transition emotionally where I should be kind of getting ready for a new school year. I'm not. I'm, pretty much, you know, as pretty much off the grid, except for, when I'm tuning in with my podcast and checking in with Goodness Chick stuff. I'm spending my days picking figs, getting to know different people culturally, talking about mental health, talking about addiction. My life's changed big time. And there's a little anxiety involved in that. I found myself when I'm talking out loud about it, whether that's to my husband or, on the phone with my mom, or processing it out loud. Um, it helps. I'm very much at peace with the decision that has been made. I'm very at peace with this new chapter that's, stepped away from everything familiar, went into something totally not familiar, but I'm knowing this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I know this is kind of where, God has led us to a different path. I will tell you seriously, without question, talking it out, writing things out, filling in the blank between the lines from different places we're going, the people I'm meeting, different goals I have with every step of the way has made the transition easier, less bumpy, much smoother. And so I'm learning that about myself. So when I relay this to you today, this isn't something that I'm not telling you from experience. I'm learning, I'm growing like we all are. And I think it's an important thing. I think transitions, we can get a lot more out of them and learn a lot more from them when we allow ourselves to kind of process. Just my 2 cents with that one. And so, as you're in whatever stage you're going wherever you're going, you're whether you're at the beginning of a transition, the end of a transition, you're in the middle, you're just wherever you are you giving yourself time to process? Are you filling in those blanks of what are my emotions? What are my thoughts? What are my expectations? Do you have that wingman that you can confide in, or that notebook that you're putting stuff in, or you're in the shower, or you're driving and you're brain dumping and allowing your brain to breathe a little bit, allowing yourself to catch your breath a little bit, allowing yourself to add the color to life that you really deserve. Life is too short for life to just be gray and muted and grainy, and it's really kind of easy to just let a transition happen. And I know for myself as an educator, especially around this time of year, it would just happen quickly. It was like you're in flip flops 1 second, and then you're running out the door, and up before I think God intended us to be up before the sun was up, and life just kind of happened. When we take time, and that can be hard sometimes. And again, when I'm throwing out getting creative, and you're driving in the car, you're in the shower, you have 7 minutes here, but to let your brain just breathe a little bit and let a little bit out, it helps. It's kind of like when you had that helium balloon and you just kept blowing it up, blowing it up, blowing it up. At some point, it expands so much that it pops. I'm not saying our heads are going to explode. What I'm saying is it just gets to be too much. And when you let out a little bit of air slowly, there's more slack, there's more ability, there's more flexibility, and it's not as rigid. We're not supposed to be rigid, man. We're not supposed to be rigid. Um, but we're all supposed to have a game plan and kind of rocking that out. And so I challenge you to kind of kick that around. I also am going to encourage you. I'm so pumped. I've been in the works for a little bit now. Goodnesschick.com has been revamped. Check it out, from different blog posts to my thoughts, things with traveling. I'm really pumped to my podcast. You can hop on and just really access all things Goodness Chick, all social media handles. Check it out. I'm wishing you an epic week where we can just bring color to our life, breathe a little bit deeper, and just make the most out of it. Peace, love, and goodness, my friends.
If you enjoyed today's show, I encourage you to subscribe to Goodness Chicks podcast and pass it along to your friends. I hope you enjoyed today's episode and have a great day.